This month is special because I'm celebrating 10 years in business. So Ever Expanding Coaching has officially been in business 10 years this September, which is particularly exciting because when we look at the stats of businesses, I think most of us are familiar about how many businesses fail in the first 5 years. And its research has actually shown that only 1 out of 3 businesses make it to 10 years. And so while I'm not huge on the statistics, and that was never like a benchmark or a marker for me, really taking the opportunity, one of the things I teach is to celebrate the wins. So just taking this moment to celebrate reaching that 10-year milestone, and really proud of that. And also acknowledging the statistics that less than 2% of female-owned businesses ever cross the $1 million mark, which we have done as a company. And so just taking a moment this month to celebrate some of the accomplishments that we've had over the last decade. As I reflect back over this last 10 years and I think about me and the biggest impact personally and from a transformation perspective, I would say the thing that stands out most when I think about that is the lifestyle and the level of freedom that we've achieved as a family. And I would say that's maybe not common in business. You usually don't hear that from business owners, right? It's the work longer, harder. This is all consuming. I have no personal life. And I would say the absolute opposite has happened in our lives is we've just created this freedom to go where we want, when we want, do what we want, when we want. And not to say there aren't restrictions on that, but that level of freedom. Why this is important is because the real transformation that's occurred in me is the freedom in my mindset and the freedom to know that's possible. And so to watch that evolve over the last 10 years as I've personally grown and then watched that reflect back in the business and the lifestyle, I would say that's been one of the greatest accomplishments that I've had personally. And when I think about that freedom, that wasn't always the case. I grew up in an atmosphere that work longer, harder, faster. That's what I knew. And I knew how to work. I knew how to hustle. I knew how to make things happen. And so that's where my journey as a business owner started. So what I say about the biggest growth, when I first started this business 10 years ago, I was working 7 days a week. I was working 12 and 13-hour days with a longing for that freedom. That's not what I wanted, but that's what it was. And so when I think about the growth over the 10 years, to be able to transform from that mentality, paradigm, reality, into what we've created today, that's reflecting back. I would say I'm just so proud of the work personally that I've done in order to create that, which is exactly what we teach our clients to do. And that's really, so many people come to us with that same longing. They just want that freedom. They want to own their own time. And so my ability to do that for myself has increased my confidence to be able to show other people exactly how to do that as well. And it wasn't always easy. It didn't happen overnight. It was hard. Entrepreneurship, owning a business, it is hard. And there were lots and lots of sleepless nights. We bootstrapped the company, so we personally financed it. We took out of retirement savings. And there were lots of sleepless nights around, is this going to work? How are we going to pay our mortgage? What does that look like? And so I never want to leave the impression that it's been really easy and there's been no challenges. It's been hard. It's been really rigorous, and again, didn't start where we are today. But I know that we're where we are today because of those early years and how we navigated that. Great question. When I started this business, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just thought, that's way too much effort. That's way too much work. I don't know if I have what it's in me. I've been surrounded by entrepreneurs all my life. And when I first started this business, it was really, I was looking for a job. And I really was longing for that time freedom. I had 3 young kids when I started this business. My kids were 1, 3, and 5. And I thought it's just going to be me. I didn't want to manage people. I didn't want to hire people. I didn't want a big team. I just wanted something that I could do that I loved, that gave me a lifestyle for myself and my family. And it's so interesting how things evolve, right? We do start with that vision of what we know. And over the years, I realized that if I bring on a team and other people to help me, I can help more people. And so there was never like this big dream or desire of owning a big company and building this empire. I know lots of people have that vision. But what I realized was the desire for growth came from my desire to help more people and to make a bigger impact. And so I would say very organically, the company grew to some contractors and how can I outsource this or delegate that so that I can make a bigger impact on the planet. And as I've grown in that, it's been so interesting. My kids, they're now 11, 13, and 15. They have grown up in this business. They've known nothing different. And for them to really see what we've built, the lifestyle that we've created, and as they're spending time with friends and seeing how other people live their life, I think they're starting to realize that we live a very different lifestyle that's available to everybody, but not everybody knows that that's available. But it's been so fun over the last little bit. Jeff, my husband, has been involved in the business since day one. We call him the CSO. He's the Chief Support Officer. I would not be able to do what I'm doing without him. So him supporting our family, our kids, supporting me, doing whatever's required. It's so wonderful to do that together, especially in the work that I'm in, mindset, personal development. Him and I have been on that journey together since we met in 2000. And so to have him inside of the business in that way has been really, really special. And now our kids, my oldest daughter supported us at one of our events recently, and they're just starting to ask different questions and get interested. And where that will go and what will that lead to, I don't know. But I hope that we're modeling for them that they can do life however they want to do it, and that whatever is possible is available to them. And they don't want to hear that always from their parents. So I also know they have free will in that. But I would just say us living what we're teaching, I hope, is modeling to our kids that anything is possible. Yeah. So I left corporate and I knew there was something more for me to do, and I didn't know what that was. And one of the things that I did in that transition period is I hired a career coach to help me do the self-assessment and get interested. And he asked me really, really great questions, and everything kept leading to coaching. The landscape of life coaching was very different a decade ago than it was now. I had no idea what a life coach was, but I got curious about it, and it seemed to check a lot of boxes. And so I found a life coaching certification program that just really felt aligned to me. And I went into that thinking, if I make this a career, if I build this as a business, this is a life skill. So if I go back to corporate, whatever I do, this is going to serve me. And I've had that attitude. That's how I went into business school. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I thought business school is something that no matter what I do, it'll serve me. And so I got this certification, went home, got to work, and I have to say I fell in love with it. And I did something I think is really important. I said, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And so I'm going to pour all my energy into building this over this next 6 months. And then after 6 months, I'll reevaluate. And that was now 10 years ago. And in the beginning, it was, I just wanted a job, right? I wanted something where I could make an income, I could be there for my family. And as I was doing that, the demand for what I was doing grew greater than what I could do on my own. And so it was time to hire. And for anybody who's built a business, that's scary, right? There's an investment, you're giving away control, what is that gonna look like? But I use the tools that I teach, and I really created a vision of who do I want on that team? What does that look like? What type of person? And out of the blue, the person showed up for me. And at first it was like 2 hours or 4 hours a week. That's what I could afford. That's what I needed. And I think that's such an important lesson, is do what you can with what you have. And in today's climate, we're so blessed. We don't need a full-time employee. You can have multiple contractors doing different things, which wasn't always available in business. And so this person started with me doing a couple hours a week, and that grew and grew and grew. And now she's been with me since 2016 and is a full-time employee with the company and just such an important part. And over the years, we've, had different contractors and how can we delegate this? How can we outsource that? And I've built a team. There's probably 8 of us now on the team when I look at it. And it was so organic in so many ways. But that growth has always come. The center of everything that we do is how can we make a greater impact? And so by bringing somebody on the team, it's going to help us make a bigger impact in the world. And I have an incredible team around me. It just chokes me up because I'm so grateful. Not only that they love my clients as much as I do, they love the work that we get to do in the world. And they really live from the principles. And I can't imagine keeping that to myself and doing that on my own now, to be able to share that and rely on other people's expertise where they get to do what they love and I get to do what I love. And we combine that together to just really make this beautiful impact in people's lives. It's an honor. Yeah. 10 years doesn't go by without challenges. There are challenges every day. My dad, he said to me one time, and I use this all the time, he says, you just have to fall in love with solving problems, because that's really what business and life is a series of solving problems. And when we face those problems and those challenges from that perspective, I think it makes life a lot easier. I would say the greatest challenge, certainly for a long time, longer than I would like to admit, was cash flow and money. And I had so much fear around, I've got to put food on the table and I have to pay my mortgage. And now I have people that I'm responsible for. And that was a lot. There was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress that I felt around that. And so that was one of the biggest challenges, especially those moments when it's time to grow, it's time to hire, it's time to pick a bigger venue, it's time to put that deposit down on a retreat, then nobody's signed up to come. Those moments of the unknown where you're faced with making that decision, those gulp moments, certainly was the hardest thing to overcome. And I am so grateful for my coaches, my mentors, my community, the people who I get to go to in those moments, who have held my hand every step of the way, and having those support systems so that I never got stuck for very long in those decisions. And to be able to fail and make mistakes and where things maybe don't turn out the way that you want, but to have the mindset tools, to have the support in how am I going to navigate this and what am I going to learn from it and how am I going to grow from it. That's always the greatest opportunity. And just to speak to that around the money, it's interesting because I was never a money person. I was never money driven. I was never, I want to make more money and salary. I was always purpose driven. So as long as I was doing what I loved and I was making an impact and I was growing, I was happy. And it didn't matter really on the financial piece of it. But once I got into business, I all of a sudden just really got afraid. And I think part of that was I was used to a paycheck, right? Every 2 weeks there was going to be money landing in the bank and it was very, very stable. But when I got into business, that was a really significant shift and I could feel myself getting worried about it. What happened is, though, when the moment I went, Stacey, you never used to worry about this stuff. You never used to be so focused on the money. You were always focused on the purpose and being driven by that. And the mental shift and the mindset shift when I made it about service again, and I made it about impact, and I made it about purpose. It's funny that once I was able to shift that, all of a sudden the money flowed. And so I just share that because I know in business, it's scary. And that fear and that worry and the shift in the mindset is really at the core of everything that we teach because it's at the core of all of our results. I have a lot of coaches specifically that reach out to me or that come to our events and they say, I want to do what you're doing. I mean, we're hosting big events now, hundreds of people, production team. And I like to remind people it didn't start here. It didn't start with where we are. And there have definitely been some hockey stick moments and growth moments, and I'll speak into that. But what I say to people is I got to that big stage, the big production, because I was willing to speak to the empty room. I was willing to host the events in the free library space where 2 or 3 people came. And that comparison, when we look at people who are 10 years in business, I'm looking at other people who are much further ahead and saying, I want to be there. But I know they didn't start there. And so I think the start stops so many people. And because they can't bring this level of excellence to something, they don't even start. And so just a reminder, when you're looking at somebody who's achieving a certain level of success, maybe that you're not, is to remember they did not start there. But my ability to, like I said, host the event and nobody comes, to speak to a room of 3 people, to just keep moving forward and that persistence. And one of the things that I would always say is when things didn't work out, let's say I gave a talk and said, hey, if you want to know about coaching, and nobody raised their hand, or I didn't see results from an action I took. I ran a marketing campaign and it fell flat. The mantra that I would use was, I planted seeds today. I planted seeds today. And now 10 years in, I can see the harvest of all of those little seeds that I planted over this last decade. And people who said, I've been following you for 7 years and now I'm ready. And I just think, yeah, that was the seed that I planted. And I think that's such a great mental attitude, right? When we're taking the action and we're not seeing the results and things aren't happening. I planted seeds today. And just like a seed in nature, it takes some time to grow, to be harvested. It's the same in business. It's the same in life. The big hockey stick moments, those big surges of growth, have always come after a significant internal growth moment where I've gone to a retreat. I've gone into just an even deeper level of study and awareness, and I've unlocked something within me. And I can feel it when it happens, when I just feel like, wow, I've unlocked this awareness within me. And I know that as I unlock awareness within me, I'm going to see that external result. And that's always been the case, that when I've gone in and I've done that deeper work and I unlock something within me, and that awareness and that insight connected to an idea in a bigger way, I often see that fairly quickly in the external results. And so that's just the importance, I believe, in investing in ourselves. Somebody said to me once, and I know this to be true after working with thousands and thousands of people after this last decade, is that success is 95% mindset and 5% strategy. And most of us have that backwards. We're spending 95% of our time on action and hustling and strategy and taking this and doing that. And if you just flip that and make yourself the project and work on your mindset, your paradigms, your thinking, and unlocking that within you, that strategy piece, which is really, really important, becomes a lot easier and a lot more effective. To the person, I would say, if I look at me 10 years ago, just starting in business, and what's that mental move, or what's the move that's going to take you into 5 years, into 10 years, is do what you love and really know why are you doing the thing that you're doing. And when your purpose and your passion is at the root of everything that you're doing, it's going to turn those hard days into opportunities. And if you're doing something that you love and you know that that is your purpose and you're passionate about it, and you remember why you're doing what you're doing, it's going to help you get out of bed on those hard days and really push through and override those failures, because guess what? There will be failures. So stay very, very connected to your purpose, to your passion, and then having that vision of where you want to go. Create that picture and have that vision. So important. And I would also add, surround yourself with a community and get that mentorship, get that coaching, get that support. You do not have to do this on your own. I know I did not do this on my own. it was with an incredible team behind me, some of that mentorship, some of that friends, family, my team, but get a community to really support you, because you need that. You need that. It's going to make me cry. Yeah. I am so grateful for the work that I get to do. And, it's given me a really blessed life. This work has taken me to really great places all around the world. We were in the Rocky Mountains doing a wonderful hike the other day, doing some scouting for an upcoming retreat. And I just looked over to Jeff and I said, this is our life. And I want people to know that there's so much more, and you are more powerful than your conditions, your circumstances. You truly can live a life that you love. And to the people that I get to help, I am so grateful. I had a client, I haven't talked to her, I haven't worked with her, seen her for probably about 4 years. And she reached out the other day and said, I am still using the tools that you taught me, and I am so grateful. And that's the greatest gift of this work, and is the text messages and the phone calls, and to watch you living a life that you love, and to just have a little small part in that. That's what gets me out of bed. And so over the last decade, I just want to say thank you to all of the people who have been a part of my journey and who have invited me into their lives. And I don't take that lightly, to be invited to walk with somebody on their journey and to support them in their dreams. And so I just want to say thank you for being a part of this community, for inviting me into your life. And I look forward to many, many more years of empowering people to really create and live lives that they love.